All right, everyone, welcome back to Monkey Business. Monkey is not here today. She's at school, and I don't really want her around while we're, doing some pretty heavy stuff. So there's nothing wrong with Walt, but as we all do, it's time to give Walt a little attitude with a little altitude. So we're going to be going over how to do the Icon 3-inch spacer lift. I did a lot of research on it. I'll kind of go into that later, but did a lot of research and it seems like it's the best one. I'll kind of tell you why here in a little bit. And then also we're doing the Icon upper control arms as well. I've read a lot that anything over 2.5 inches on these Broncos, you should really consider doing an upper control arm. So I decided to kind of keep everything together. So we're going to get into this install, kind of show you some of the things that you need to do and be prepared for, and hopefully it'll help you if you decide to do this in your driveway. I was going to do it in my driveway, but James here, my friend at our dealership, is more than willing to help me out a little bit, get this done a little bit quicker, and use a 2-post lift, which will even help us out a lot more. So enjoy watching. If you like the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button. We appreciate you guys watching, and let's get started. All right, the first thing we're going to do, everybody, in here is we need to take off the inner fender liners, and that's what James is getting to right now, so we can get to, actually the steering shaft is going to be in our way for this upper control arm, so going to need to get this all taken off here. But yeah, to start with these little fasteners like James is working on right now. There's quite a few of them in here, it looks like, so yeah, just be careful with them because, they're just basically plastic with a Phillips head, and then you kind of pop them out. So let's get this fender liner off, and then we'll keep working. Come on. Yeah, you're right, that's a poor design.
I don't know why they ever thought, oh, plastic screws will hold for them.
Right? So to get them out, like I was saying, just use light pressure, and then once they're pretty much out, then you can just get behind them here and pry them right out, okay? It's like this one, and don't lose these. You will need these later. All right, so we got the inner fender liner off. You need to get every last push pin out, and if you have these rock blocks, there is still one back here. You need to kind of move your bracket out of the way and just kind of make sure you got them all out. Like James had shown me, you're going to want, there's this flap up here, you're going to pull that out first, kind of gives it a little bit of relief, and then you'll be able to pull the rest of it out. Don't forget too, you do have a rubber piece up here that kind of attaches to the inner fender liner. You just pop the inner part here out, and makes it so much easier to get out. But now that we got her done, now we'll get to taking out this big bolt here and sliding it out on this side. Driver's side is a little bit tougher, that's why I gave it to James, because we have the steering rack in the way. Okay, so what we're doing now is to do the upper control arm. First take out the upper knuckle bolt here, and it's an 18mm. All right, so we've got this all loosened up. Using impact on this side, you're going to want to use a 21mm socket. And then for the nut side, using an 18mm to hold it while you undo it. Let's get this upper control arm off. All right, so we got the Delta Joint Pro in here from Icon. Pretty easy. Don't forget, look at the torque specs on the bolts before you, start putting it down the ground. But now we got to get this to line up with our upper knuckle here. So it is pretty stiff, so just keep that in mind, that it's going to take some getting it done, or lift it up from the bottom to get it into line. All right, so we got the upper control arm in. Looks really nice, and Got everything torqued down to 122 foot-pounds up here, and this one is 75 foot-pounds. So that is how you install the upper control arm on an Icon upper control arm, I guess. So next we'll get to doing a 3-inch lift. All right, so we've disconnected the end link here, and we've disconnected the stabilizer bar up front. And then what they say is you can knock this out of the way, pop it up and out of the way, and then Icon suggests you can move this hole to this stud, and it kind of moves everything out of the way. So we'll get that done. All right, so now that we've got the sway bar end link out of the way, and we've got that moved back from that stud to that stud, now we'll be taking out the bolts down here to free up some room to get the coilover out of there. And then we're going to loosen or take out these lower control arm cam bolt so we can free up some space here and be able to get this out a little bit easier. All right, just so you know, we had some issues trying to get that one off, even with an impact wrench. So everybody, science is important. James grabbed his breaker bar, and the more leverage, the easier it was. So now we've got that one loosened. We'll get this lower control arm down here. All right, so we removed the upper bolts for the coilover, and coilover is free now. Now I just need to take out these lower bolts, and I believe Icon will give us new ones to use. All right, we're gonna compress our strut here just so we can loosen up the top bolt here, but probably gonna want to get a little bit of pressure on it just to make it a little bit easier to take apart, and then start putting things together here. It's kind of funny, we got to take things apart to put them together.
Yeah, they were.
One thing doing, once you get some pressure on it, you can start taking the top nut off, but don't go all the way with it, just enough to, you know, get towards the end, and then start adding pressure, because what happens is the rod ends up spinning because it's connected directly to the top. So just a little tip right there for you. All right, everyone, so on the driver's side, we ran into problems with the lower bolts. They show on some of the videos that you can knock them out using a vise to knock them out. We wailed on those trying to get them out. Finally ended up using the press and an oversized socket. So we used a 24mm socket and, you know, cradled that underneath the head of the bolt, or it's not really a bolt, it's a pressed in fitting basically. And press the bolt back through into the socket. So that made it a lot quicker. The second time around went so much easier, and just something to think about when you're doing this. I'm just glad I've got a whole shop that I can use all these different stuff, all these different pieces of equipment. So just food for thought, everybody. All right, so we've got the upper control arm in like before, but now we finally have our new coilover in. Obviously it's not new. I think Bill Stein did a great job with theirs. So the thing is that we found out was you're using bolts going through the top now into the coilover. So you got to find those, and I'm glad that James was here. It's a pretty heavy coilover, so to be able to find those, you might have to wiggle it around a little bit, but now I got it in, and all we have to do now is put in the new hardware for the lowers. All right, so we got everything kind of buttoned back up. Everything's bolted basically together. We're not going to tighten everything until we get it on the ground and then really kind of go back over it. We're going to leave this loose for now since we still got the other side, but that is how you do the suspension on the front of it, and we'll do the back here pretty soon. All right, so while we were under here, we decided to put on these JKS tie rod sleeves. So pretty much, as you can see, we've already taken the tie rod apart. I mean, it's fairly simple. Undo the nut up here on your tie rod. See if we can focus in on that. And then you take your nut off down here on the bottom of your tie rod. Hit it with a hammer a few times on the bottom of the knuckle, and then loosen it up, take it apart, show you what it looks like. All right, so everything's back reattached, control arm, even got our JKS tie rod sleeves installed. You know, just make sure you're using a paint marker to make sure you get pretty close to where you began. And then we've got our sway bar all connected back up with the new lift. Let me see if I get a little light on that for you here. So you can kind of see the preload spacer, and then the other spacer's up, obviously up top. So now we're headed to the back. Okay, so we've got our last rear coilover. Figured I'd show you guys here. We're using a spring compressor. Please you can do this at home, but be very careful. That's why I came to the dealership, and James is helping me out here. A spring has a lot of force in it. Obviously it's compressed. So you let one of these things loose and you could be going to the hospital, if not somewhere else. So be very careful. If you can, have a professional take these apart for you. Right now, like I said, we're doing the back ones. So we've got these spacers go in the back. These are 1 1/4, I believe. So they are taller than the front ones, which makes it a little bit easier because we don't need to cut the front or cut the studs on the top hat of these. So these will fit right on. You do a 180-degree turn like we did on the front one, so it repositions them because you're going to have a new bolt pattern basically. So we're going to do that. Get this on, get the wheels and tires on, which is another big add-on for us. And yeah, showing you guys what this looks like. All right, so obviously we've got nothing in there yet. We've got our top spacer on. There is no preload again on a Sasquatch package, so that makes it a little bit quicker on the back side to get these done. I mean, I think it's taken James and I, once we put this in, probably about 30 minutes to do the back, and then just reorientate it, get it put back up in there, and we'll get it put back on the ground. All right, so we got the strut coilover, whatever you want to call it, out. We're now reinstalling it after putting on the spacer on top for a Sasquatch. You do not use a preload on this one. Definitely, we just found out to make sure about supporting your axle. You know, almost didn't feel like it was going in real well until we put a little tension on the axle to lift it up. So now James is tightening up our top bolts, and then we'll get to the other side and wrap this thing up. All right, well, I am driving, I guess, Walt 2.0. Still need to get alignment on it. We hit it pretty close, but we're gonna get in tomorrow. I just ran out of time. Actually, I was late picking up Monkey from school, so going to pick her up from my dad's right now, who was kind enough to go do that for me, but she has no idea about this. My wife has no idea that we did this with Walt. We'll get a reaction from Monkey, and then we'll show you what the new Walt looks like right now. It's pretty awesome. Got a little bit of fine tuning probably to do, especially once we do the alignment. But other than that, we do have a little bit of rubbing. So if anybody tells you on a Sasquatch you put a 3-inch lift on it, you won't have any rubbing, that's not true. We definitely have some rubbing, especially on the driver's side. Had to take off the rock blocks mud flaps because they were definitely catching and gave us a little bit more room, but still, if you go to lock, you're definitely gonna be rubbing the bar that I put in for the rock block. So we'll take we're almost here to my dad's house and see what Addie thinks.
What did you do?
Come on.
What did you do? Oh no. It looks like nothing right now.
It doesn't look like I did anything to it.
The windows are black.
The windows were always tinted.
Oh. The
Well, I
roof?
just did that a while
Is the roof
ago.
different?
The roof is not different.
That.
What is that?
Oh, the tires are bigger. These are bigger.
There it is, everybody. It's not just the tires, Monk.
He's bigger.
He's bigger. He's 3 inches taller.
Yeah, I noticed.
So there it is, everybody.
Wow.
Walt 2.0,
I look so tiny.
a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Now, if this may be my last video, especially when the wife sees it, since she doesn't know anything about it.
You didn't tell her?
She doesn't know,
Oh, no.
but there it is. We did Method 704 bead grip technology with BF Goodrich 37 TAA KO2s, which is one of everybody's favorite, one of the favorites out there. So, yep, besides an alignment, that is Walt 2.0.
He bigs.
He is big.
Now I feel so tiny.
So,
Look at me. I'm tiny.
we appreciate you guys watching. We'll give you more insights of how everything's going with Walt 2.0.
Yeah.
We'll get the alignment done tomorrow and see if there's anything else we need to tighten up. But hey, appreciate watching. Have a blessed day.